Well, this might be the last time I'll be wearing this for a while since, I'm not going to be doing any commentary companions for Sony's Spider-Man universe. Made that a vow. But anyway, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. My uncle actually got me this coat for my birthday, and it ties into the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Even does this. Love showing it off. Anyway, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is available to stream on these platforms. Of course, you can watch The Amazing Spider-Man 2 on DVD while listening to the commentary. But anyway, let's web up and enjoy this commentary of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Welcome to Commentary Companions. I'm your host, Tony Garcia, and today I'm doing a commentary on The Amazing Spider-Man 2, released in 2014. And let me tell you, this film is a lot of things. I don't know if amazing is an adjective to really describe it, but I think it's an amazing mess, which I think is the perfect way to describe this film, because, oh boy. The Amazing Spider-Man, the first film, was good, but the second film is when things really went downhill. I think the moment the gentleman appeared in that mid-credits scene is when I can pinpoint when the franchise went downhill. You have to remember, the first Amazing Spider-Man film was released in 2012, several months after The Avengers was released in theaters. And The Avengers was a smash hit, proving that the Marvel Cinematic Universe could be a success in Hollywood. And Avi Arad, Amazing Spider-Man's producer, was rather disgruntled at the fact that the Marvel Cinematic Universe was successful without him. And he really wanted to replicate the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And given his relationship with Sony, and Sony was like, hey, we're sitting on a gold mine with the Spider-Man franchise. How about we make our own cinematic universe? And, so Sony thought it was a bright idea to just have The Amazing Spider-Man be the starting point for their own cinematic universe, in which there would be spin-offs galore, including a Sinister Six crossover. And I hear that Drew Goddard was supposed to write a script for the Sinister Six, and there was even supposed to be an Aunt May spin-off. Yeah, how did that work out? Yeah, like I said, I have such mixed feelings towards The Amazing Spider-Man 2. It was actually the first Spider-Man film that I did not watch in theaters. At the time, I was a junior in high school, and I remember Gwen Stacy's death being spoiled for me on the internet. I was like, well, that immediately turned me off, and I was like, you know what? I think I won't watch this film. And so, I didn't watch it in theaters. I kind of ditched it. I guess you could say I abandoned ship. So, yeah, like I said, I have a lot of mixed feelings towards The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I think it's the film that broke the franchise. And I don't think it also helps. I don't think it also helps that so much of the plot to The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was spoiled in marketing. That is so annoying. And I can understand why it would be such a major turnoff for a lot of fans. And I also feel bad for actors Campbell Scott and Embeth Davidtz. Their characters are really they are so wasted here. That's one thing that I also don't like about The Amazing Spider-Man 2. So many talented actors are in this film, and talented actors are in this film, and their talents are wasted. Their potential isn't used good enough. It's it's just so annoying. Oh, gosh. The guy washing his hands certainly doesn't look suspicious. Oh, who am I kidding? I swear, the demon pilot in K-pop Demon Hunters is less suspicious when pouring coffee into a plant. Yes, I had to reference K-pop Demon Hunters. Holy gunpoint, Batman. Why even lock the door? That's kind of not a great plan. Why not just shoot her now? Oh, who am I kidding? Yeah, and I think you weren't a genius in locking the door good enough. Now, as you might notice, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is composed this time by Hans Zimmer and Pharrell Williams, which really shows how dated this film is. Now, composer James Horner, who pretty much composed the first film and was definitely one of the best aspects about the first film, well, James Horner refused to return for Amazing Spider-Man 2, citing the script as dreadful. He felt the creative vision was lost in the sequel, which is why he didn't return. And I think, his script is sorely missed. Of course, check out Richard Parker's Sony computer, which is totally not distracting. There is so much product placement for Sony products, which really does bother me. Now, I guess I could talk about this fun fact. Well, I don't know if it's really a fun fact, but I guess it's a comic book fact. In the comics, Peter's parents were murdered by Albert Malik in The Amazing Spider-Man Annual Number 5 in 1968, written by Stan Lee and illustrated by his brother Larry Lieber. Now, Albert Malik made his comic book debut in Young Men Number 24 in 1953. And in the comics, Albert Malik is the Red Skull, specifically the third Red Skull. But I guess Sony isn't legally allowed to really use the Red Skull moniker. But it'd be kind of funny if the killer in this film, his name is actually Albert Malik. That would actually be kind of faithful to the comics, I guess. But you know, Sony doesn't care about comic book accuracy, as you will see. Bye bye. Man, he's really committed to sending them files. Isn't that interesting? Success! And now to somehow, of course, he either dies or he manages to conveniently find a parachute and land out. At least that's the alternate ending, but I guess I'll talk about that piping hot mess later on in the film, as the film progresses. Now, yeah, there's a lot about The Amazing Spider-Man 2 I dislike, but this sequence after the plane crash actually really does bring the film back to life. And let me start by saying that Spider-Man's suit really does look great here. It's a massive improvement over the first film, and I think most fans agree. I think there's a reason why they decided to use this suit in Spider-Man No Way Home over the first film. It is a great suit. And also, you might find this really cool, but The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the first Spider-Man film to actually be filmed entirely in New York State, and the largest film production ever in New York City, which is amazing. It really does add an authenticity to the film. Yep, and there's Paul Giamatti, who always wanted to play the Rhino. I am not going to give this character the dignity of calling him the Rhino. This guy's a joke. But I guess I'll talk about his comic book roots. Alexei Sitchevich made his comic book debut in The Amazing Spider-Man number 41 in October of 1966, created by Stan Lee and John Romita Sr. That so sounds like something he would say. And honestly, this whole I really love that this is actually a lot of this is done with practical effects, like with all the car crashes, because this actually feels like a genuine chase scene. And a lot of people have compared this beginning sequence to the famous car chase scenes in The Blues Brothers, directed by John Landis. And yeah, this does feel like something out of, like a Spider-Man sequence. Even if Paul Giamatti is over the top and sadly miscast as the Rhino. Oh, look at that, I'm calling him Rhino. And there's Jamie Foxx. And fun fact, I became familiar with Jamie Foxx thanks to because of his performance as Ray Charles and in the Tom Cruise movie Collateral. I really want to watch Collateral. I hope I can watch Collateral one day. Uh-oh. Whoa, so many cars are crashing! That is pretty cool. Now, you may or may not believe this. I think you will believe it. Many vehicles were used and destroyed for this film, including 80 police cars. You heard me right. 80 police cars. Now, costume duties were taken over by Deborah L. Scott, who redesigned the Spider-Man suit. And like I said, while it's not comic book accurate, there are a lot of different shapes to the suit, it's still a great improvement over the first film. Now, Deborah L. Scott has been a frequent collaborator to James Cameron and Michael Bay. For James Cameron, Deborah Scott has done costume designs for Titanic and the Avatar trilogy. For Michael Bay, she's done costume designs on Bad Boys 2, The Island, the first 3 Transformers films, Pain and Gain, and 13 Hours. Her other works include costuming for E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Twilight Zone the movie, meaning she's also collaborated with Steven Spielberg. She's done costume designs for Back to the Future, Hoffa, the erotic thriller Sliver, the Frank Oz-directed Indian in the Cupboard, Heat, starring Val Kilmer and Robert De Niro and Al Pacino, Wild Wild West, starring Will Smith and Kevin Kline, The Patriot, starring Mel Gibson, Minority Report, therefore having a third collaboration with Steven Spielberg, Reign Over Me, starring Adam Sandler, Get Smart, starring Steve Carell and Anne Hathaway, Love and Other Drugs, also starring Jake Gyllenhaal and Anne Hathaway, We Bought a Zoo, starring Matt Damon and Scarlett Johansson, and Sicario, Day of the Salado. She was also a costume consultant on The Invention of Lying and Alita Battle Angel. Oh, she does not sound happy. My spider senses are tingling. Oh, wait, no, it's the ghost of George Stacy. Woo! He's got that Dennis Leary smirk. Yay! Well, there's Helen. Now, this is a crazy fact. When Columbia was shown in theaters, a mid-credits teaser for X-Men Days of Future Past, produced by Fox, was included. Director Mark Webb violated a contract with Fox to make a film for Sony after The Amazing Spider-Man in order to return for Sony for this franchise. Thus, Sony had to agree to promote Fox's X-Men for free. The scene, which was not included in the video release, is unusual for a mid-credit teaser, in that it is actual footage from the film it's promoting, specifically a scene with Mystique in Vietnam. And you might find this bittersweet. Emma Stone personally wrote Gwen's graduation speech. And it does feel authentic and genuine. Nice save. Nice detail for the Daily Bugle bus. What better way is there to live indeed? Jeez, you do not give up, do you, Alexei? Oop, and he's out like a lump. Okay, yeah, that sequence was fun to watch when I was rewatching The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And also, I'm going to be doing something rather different. Now, I've already mentioned a lot of the characters that have appeared in the Spider-Man movies, and I'm going to do my best to not be redundant and, oh, this character made their debut in this character if you've already seen them. So I'm also going to mention their counterparts in Ultimate Marvel Comics. That's what I'm going to do, to kind of really at least make it somewhat different. This should be interesting when I do the eventual commentary for Fantastic Four 2015, which I'm not looking forward to. Would rather be watching Winnie the Pooh or Sinners than watch Fantastic Four 2015. Now, the film was written. James Vanderbilt did story contributions, but I swear his script was mauled alive by the other three writers that came on board: Alex Kurtzman, Roberto Orci, and Jeff Pinkner. Now, Alex Kurtzman and Roberto Orci have collaborated 10 times, having worked on Hercules, the Legendary Journeys, Xena Warrior Princess, so they ironically worked with Sam Raimi before, Alias, The Island, Mission Impossible 3, the first two Transformers films directed by Michael Bay, Fringe, the first two Star Trek reboot films that were directed by J.J. Abrams, and Sleepy Hollow. As you can tell, they've been Kurtzman and Orci have been frequent collaborators to J.J. Abrams. The film's third co-writer, Jeff Pinkner, has extensive writing credits in film and television. His credits include several episodes of Ally McBeal, 12 episodes of Alias, 4 episodes of Lost, 26 episodes of Fringe. He co-wrote The Dark Tower. Gosh, that doesn't sound like a red flag. Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, which actually was good. Venom, which kind of sucked. Jumanji Next Level. And he'll also be co-writing the upcoming sequel, Jumanji Open World. Jeff Pinkner has produced the Netflix adaptation to Cowboy Bebop and Scooby-Doo Oranges. Jinkies. Ooh, it's the ghost of George Stacy. But on a brighter note, I actually do like that a lot of the actors did return, including Dennis Leary, and the actress that played Gwen's mother and her brothers, including Skylar Gisondo. It's even crazier knowing that after The Amazing Spider-Man, Gisondo would then play Jimmy Olsen. And it looks like he's actually a few months older than me. He doesn't look like it, but he actually is older than me, which I find amusing. And I think he's only like 1 or 2 months younger than Tom Holland. So yeah, me, Tom Holland, Skylar Gisondo, and Mary Gibbs, who voiced Boo on Monsters, Inc., we're all the same age. And we're all going to be frickin' 30 this year, if you'd believe it. I can't believe it. And yes, I cannot believe that I'm going to be 30 this year. Here I am, a 29-year-old doing commentaries on films like The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and then Shrek. Yes, I think I'm doing my best to not have a midlife crisis here. And I hate saying this, but George was right. It sucks when a character is right. It would have been even more cruel if, after Gwen dies, the ghost of George Stacy and Uncle Ben taunts Peter and are like, "We told you so, yeah, 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 yeah." I know some asshole would probably do something like that. Like, to really show how to really be mean-spirited. Because, then again, it wouldn't be different from how modern Marvel treats Spider-Man in canon nowadays. Because they love to kick Peter Parker when he's down. And I want to give Peter a hug, you know? Because I swear, they're screwing him over. Now, the three writers are clearly hit or miss with the dialogue, but
Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone are really doing their best to make this work, and I really do have to respect them for that. She's got a look that says, "I'm not mad. I'm disappointed." And meanwhile, oof, Uno reverse card, and Andrew has this resigned look on his face, which really does show how great of an actor Andrew is. I mean, I would personally love to see Tom Holland and Andrew Garfield act in a movie together, playing brothers, and they're bickering at each other. It would just be fun to see since these two are such good actors, you know? And she's saying to Helen, "Oh yeah, so I broke up with Peter." And so, what else does Peter have left except to be Spider-Man? Now, when asked about Gwen's relationship to Peter, Emma Stone told Total Film that she saves him more than he saves her. She's incredibly helpful to Spider-Man. He's the muscle, she's the brains. Now, the character George has the same name as his child actor who plays him, George Vega, because he was having difficulty in responding to instructions with other names. But I do like this scene because it shows the kind of gentle figure that Spider-Man can be. Now, several lines featured in the trailers do not appear in this film, including Peter saying, "You know what I love about Spider-Man? Everything." And Harry telling Peter, "Oscorp has got you under surveillance." He's got a fish. I have free fish. Peter's got the sniffles. Okay, this convenience store scene is actually pretty hilarious. It actually is definitely one of the best things. Okay, yeah, that's pretty funny. You know, like I said, there are some things that work about this film, and there are some things that don't work about this film. Scenes like this, like Spider-Man being sick, that's funny. And he's watching over her. If this wasn't Spider-Man, that would be totally creepy, apparently. It's a no-win situation, you know? What was that? Hmm. Apparently there was a dog that appeared that Gwen was walking during that scene, and apparently the dog was adopted by Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone in 2013, which I think is cute. I was like, "Where's the dog?" Uh-oh. I'm so naked. Now, Shailene Woodley was actually cast as Mary Jane Watson and even filmed some scenes, but her role was cut from the film because the filmmakers felt there were too many characters and wanted to streamline the series. Another person to suffer under the cut was the actor that played Flash Thompson in the first Amazing Spider-Man film. He was supposed to play. He had some scenes filmed, but unfortunately, his scenes were cut, which is a shame. Ooh, what's this? What's this? There's something very strange. What's this? Yep. And now Spider Man lives rent free in Max's head. But, I have to give Jamie Foxx credit for being committed to the part. Like I said, I became familiar with him when I saw a promo for Ray, because at the time I didn't know that Jamie Foxx was a comedian. Also, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the first Spider-Man film to have Academy Award-winning actors play Spider-Man villains, Jamie Foxx being one of them. Now, following the mixed critical and audience reaction to the film, star Andrew Garfield revealed that they had started out with a wonderful script that underwent major rewrites and restructuring on studio orders during production. He mentioned that he was heartbroken about what had happened with the story and the character, because they were not actually on top of the priority list. Garfield didn't mention any names, only showing support for director Mark Webb. Composer James Horner also praised Webb and confirmed that he passed on the sequel because producers Avi Arad and Matt Tolmach ignored Webb's input, and that Sony just wanted action. The original script focused more on the relationships between Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker, Peter's orphan status, as well as the evolution of Max Dillon into the psychotic Electro and Harry Osborn's descent into madness. During production, at the behest of Sony Studios, the story underwent a major overhaul that removed parts from it that they felt didn't work, and introduced a number of additional characters from the Spider-Man mythos, including Rhino, Black Cat, Dr. Kafka, with allusions to Mysterio, Vulture, Dr. Octopus, and Kraven the Hunter, among others, with the hopes of creating a line of spin-off films. For his part, Garfield himself expressed his own disappointment at the deviation from the original story. And I have to agree. I mean, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 had so much potential. It could have been like The Empire Strikes Back, but instead it's more like Batman v Superman. And I mean that unfavorably. I said what I said, and I'm not taking that back. I mean, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice both had potential to really be great, but their potential was wasted. Honestly, I'm not sure. I can't make up my mind on which film wasted more of its potential. Actually, I'm recording this as I type this question. Blue and red. American flag, yeah, nice cover up. Yep, which sequel wasted more potential? Wasted it? Laundry Sheriff. I really do hope that Andrew Garfield and Sally Fields get a chance to collaborate again, and I hope they get to collaborate on a better film. And I think anyone who's a fan of them would agree with me. Yep. The looming presence of Oscorp. Okay, so yeah, I've just posted it. Which sequel wasted its potential more? Batman v Superman or The Amazing Spider-Man 2? This makes me think of a line from Obadiah Stane. Do you really think that just because you have an idea, it belongs to you? Ah, yes, the psychopathic fantasy. Ah, very nice. Ouch. Yeah, this should be fun. I'm not sure which sequel really wasted his potential more, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 or Batman v Superman. Now, on a press tour, Andrew Garfield opened up to his views on the cancellation and controversy of this series. When asked how he felt no longer being Spider Man, he replied, "Well, nothing, because I was never Spider Man. Because Spider Man's a fictional character. He's not real. You know what's funny? To give you the vulnerable answer, I thought I was going to be Spider Man, you know? I went to it going, ego shit came in. It's like, okay, here it is. I am Spider Man. I freaking made it. All that shit. I didn't actually make it. I was never Spider Man. I was the actor that I am, the person that I am, struggling with trying to match up with something that I'd elevated to so high in my mind, elevated beyond what I could attain, what I could achieve. The great thing is, that's what Peter Parker was doing as well. Peter Parker created this symbol that he couldn't live up to. It was never enough. He never felt enough, and I never felt enough. And I wanted to, not to say that I needed to rescue those films, but I couldn't make them as deep and soulful and life-giving as I could ever dream, and I'm never going to be able to do that without any film. Well, with any film. It was especially difficult in that situation because, well, just because. And it was especially important because that character has always meant so much to me. He also implied that the movie's story became compromised due to studio interference and revealed that he consistently pushed on Sony to cross over with Spider-Man with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which thankfully did happen in Spider-Man No Way Home, and thank God for that. Speak of the Goblin, there's Chris Cooper as Norman Osborn. Now, I don't really know. There's one film I actually know Chris Cooper best for, and it's not American Beauty or his Academy Award-winning performance in Adaptation. It would have to be as his performance as the villain Tex Richmond in the 2011 Muppets movie. And I'm just gonna, I know that it's not fair of me to compare someone unfavorably to their predecessor, but Chris Cooper is not Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe is so much more memorable as Norman Osborn. Even if his later appearances in Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3 were merely cameo appearances, he left enough of an impact to be memorable. But Chris Cooper just isn't memorable as Norman Osborn. I swear, he's much more memorable as the villain Tex Richmond in The Muppets, especially since Tex Richmond has this condition where he cannot laugh. And so he usually takes advantage of the fact that he can't laugh by saying, maniacal laugh, maniacal laugh. And he's so funny in The Muppets, but here he's just... I know it's not entirely Chris Cooper's fault that he's not given any good material to work with, and you could tell in the final product. I mean, Chris Cooper and Dane DeHaan are good in their own respective performances, but they are seriously not... they're not given enough good material here to work with, which makes their characters feel bland. Oh yeah, that... weird disease. The goblin disease, as How It Should Have Ended called it. They should, yeah, goblin disease. How comforting. And he's telling him now. And yeah, he has to have his hand tremble on cue. You know, I liked Dane DeHaan in Chronicle, which also stars Michael B. Jordan. He's actually really good in Chronicle. Watch Chronicle. It's a really good film.
I hate you, son. Here's my life's work.
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry that I'm referencing How the Amazing Spider-Man 2 should have ended, but damn it, How the Amazing Spider-Man 2 is so funny. It's really good. Dear Mr. Jameson, new pics and invoice enclosed. I think you should consider that Spider-Man is trying to help. Sincerely, Peter Parker. Wrong. The humorously hateful news boss, J. Jonah Jameson, one of the most iconic characters in Spider-Man mythos, was never mentioned in The Amazing Spider-Man. In the sequel, he is spoken infrequently, but never appears. The producers claimed they could not find an actor to measure up to J.K. Simmons' legendary portrayal of the character in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films. Stan Lee, the writer who came up with the idea for these characters and makes cameo appearances in all the films, has often said he would volunteer to play Jameson if he were 30 or 40 years younger. And also, yeah, the scene where they're cleaning up Norman's house, they were supposed to put Norman's head in a frozen and preserved. And I guess his assistant was like, "It's time to wake up, old friend," and which they would have saved for a Sinister Six spin-off film. How'd that work out? But yeah, what am I? But yeah, if you want my opinion on who I think could have played J. Jonah Jameson in the Amazing Spider-Man films, they could have gotten Michael Gross, who plays Burt Gummer in the Tremors franchise. I mean, Michael Gross has the mustache to play J. Jonah Jameson, and I think he would have been perfect as Jolly JJJ. He would have been. I think he would have been a good Jameson in my opinion, but that's just me. And I'm afraid he might just be not be he might be too old for Jameson now. Yep. Yeah, it does suck when you have to work on your birthday. I remember having to work on my 20th birthday, and I made a vow I would never work on my birthday unless I'm acting. Ugh, such an unuseful coworker. When Spider-Man swings and maneuvers through a dark alley, a brief shot of a yellow pair of pants with a red stripe on them can be seen hanging from a clothesline. This is the costume of comic book villain Shocker. And it's funny that I'm mentioning Shocker with Max Dillon, and I'll tell you when he made his debut very soon. Success! For now. Oh, I spoke too soon. Oh, man. If that tank was closed, he'd be dead. Or, at worst, paralyzed. But yes, this transformation scene is also stupid. Seeing the gap get filled, like I said, very stupid. It's like, that wasn't even necessary. Come on, man. Of course, in the comics, Max Dillon became Electro after getting struck by lightning. Typical stuff like that. Well, said it perfectly. Now, of course, Donald Menken, the guy who's pretty much going to double-cross Harry, made his comic book debut in The Amazing Spider-Man number 239 in 1983, created by Roger Stern and John Romita Jr. Now, in Ultimate Spider-Man, Harry Osborn debuted in the first issue, which was written by Brian Michael Bendis and drawn by Mark Bagley. I was actually surprised to learn this. Like I said, I'm going to be mentioning the Ultimate Comics now. I feel like at least it'll help shake things up, Are you talking to me? And this is supposed to be Felicia Hardy, aka the Black Cat. I believe she was Felicia Hardy if the actress playing her, I'm trying to remember her name, if Felicity Jones had, maybe if she wore a wig with white hair, that would make her a bit more convincing as Felicia Hardy. But anyway, Felicia Hardy made her comic book debut in The Amazing Spider-Man number 194 in July of 1974, created by Marv Wolfman and Dave Cockrum. And of course, I know who Dave Cockrum is because of his work on X-Men, which is pretty awesome, Of course, I can't believe I'm saying this. Felicity Jones is so much better as Jyn Erso in Rogue One, a Star Wars story. She's so much more memorable. I, I actually do like the idea of Peter and Harry being childhood friends rather than college friends. It makes better sense. And when their downfall happens, it's much more tragic. Apparently, after the film was released in theaters, a petition was started on for a longer director's cut of the film. The petition reached over 4,000 signatures in 3 days. And of course, Chris Cooper was also considered to play Dr. Octopus in Spider-Man 2. Now, director Mark Webb had a 2-picture contract with 20th Century Fox, which he partially fulfilled by directing 500 Days of Summer. The second feature would have conflicted with his schedule for directing Amazing Spider-Man 2. To be released from that obligation long enough to shoot this film, Webb had to agree to extend the contract to 3 pictures. Also, this is the first Spider-Man film to not feature any new footage of Uncle Ben. He does appear in the film, but only in stock footage in the beginning, taken from Amazing Spider-Man. Specifically the first film. I think you might find this funny. To promote this film, Jamie Foxx briefly changed his Twitter username to Electro. Now, of course, it was originally planned for this film to have 2 direct sequels, The Amazing Spider-Man 3 and The Amazing Spider-Man 4, respectively, but Sony opted for the reboot alongside Marvel Studios instead. For the scene where Peter tries to change out of his Spidey costume before Aunt May enters, the shot where the boot hits the remote control, unlocking the door, was attempted several times but never worked out right. As a result, the crew decided to do it digitally. Now, when discussing the sequel, director Mark Webb explained that he wanted to create a universe that can withstand and anticipate future storylines while also working in and of itself for one movie. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the first major Hollywood production since Away We Go to utilize extensive green filmmaking initiatives to reduce CO2 emission. Instances include Mark Friedberg and his production team mostly built sets from 49 tons of salvaged and donated material. Effects like smoke and snow are water-based and biodegradable. Most of the clothing materials and textiles used in the film were either donated or salvaged and were cleaned with detergent and cold water. Subtle, eco-friendly messages were placed throughout, notably the wind power project that Spider-Man fixes for George, or is it Jorge? It is the first film to gain Sony's own A Greener World label at the end credits. Also, it's interesting how Hans Zimmer has been replaced James Horner for the music for Spider-Man. So yeah, Danny Elfman and Hans Zimmer have now done music for Spider-Man, and also for Spider-Man and Batman, and also Superman, if you'd believe it, and Wonder Woman, technically, since Danny Elfman also did composed music for Justice League, which is why I'm counting Superman and Wonder Woman. And also, interestingly, James Horner and Michael Giacchino have another thing in common. They've done music for Star Trek and Spider-Man, and James Horner and Danny Elfman have also done music both for Spider-Man and the Grinch franchise. Kind of crazy. Yep. They care about the stock, and they gotta make Harry the scapegoat. Yeah, that totally won't backfire and land flat on their faces. Ooh, something's getting smoky. Yep, and so Max Dillon is gone, and in his place is Electro. Now, Electro made his comic book debut in The Amazing Spider-Man #9 in 1964, created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. As for his Ultimate counterparts, Electro first appeared in Ultimate Spider-Man #10 in August of 2001, written by Brian Michael Bendis and illustrated by Mark Bagley. And it's nice to know that Hoodie didn't burst into flames. Gosh, 45 minutes really did pass with this reunion. But it's so fast-paced that it doesn't really feel like it. Also, this is a fun fact. Let me get to it. Now, when filming Peter and Gwen's first reunion after their breakup, Andrew Garfield's heel was run over by a taxi. Ouch, that's actually gotta hurt. But if lesser actors were filming this scene, the dialogue itself wouldn't work. But thank God Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone had such good chemistry in real life for this film. It really does benefit. It does benefit the film. It does help. Sorry, I'm enamored. Yeah. Yep. Now, director Mark Webb chose to shoot on 35mm film instead of the digital Red Epic cameras the original was shot with. While it is relatively common for franchise films to shoot on film and transition to digital for sequels as digital cinematography in 3D has become more commonplace, this is a rare example of a franchise switching to film after starting on digital. Although cinematographer Dan Mindell, a proponent on shooting on film, thought he would have to convince Webb to shoot this way, he was actually interviewed specifically because Webb wanted to shoot on film and with Mindell's preferred anamorphic lenses, instead of the spherical ones that the original film used. Webb subsequently included in his contracts a writer that requires any feature he directs to be shot on film. Now, although we never see Mary Jane, Jane Levy and Kristen Stewart were both considered for the role of Mary Jane before the character was dropped from the story. And yes, Jamie Foxx is the first black man to play a villain in the Spider-Man films. And for Electro's design, the FX team studied electrical phenomena like lightning storms and Tesla coils. Now, Times Square was created digitally for the big visual effects fight between Spider-Man and Electro. This required taking 36,000 shots of the real location first. While filming the scene in which Peter and Harry catch up, some newspapers mistook the two actors' chemistry for real-life bonding on sets. Interestingly, Dane DeHaan and James Franco, who have also shared the role of James Dean, as well as Harry Osborn. Oh boy. Trying to cover that up. Play dumb. Never mind. Now, Andrew Garfield was paid $1 million, nearly 1/20th of Tobey Maguire's salary for Spider-Man 2, which was $17.5 million. Oof. According to Alex Kurtzman, the majority of the movie's plot was taken from the Turning Point Spider-Man comics. Of course, you may or may not know, but both Andrew Garfield and Felicity Jones have starred in Doctor Who. Rhys Ifans, villain of who played Lizard, was considered to play the 11th Doctor, but the role eventually went to Garfield's close friend, Matt Smith, and Matt Smith would then play Milo in Morbius. It's Morbin time. Though the film never received any Oscar nominations, it made the shortlist announced by the Academy for Best Achievement in Hair and Makeup. The Amazing Spider-Man was shot over a period of 4 months. Oh, something doesn't sound good. You know, I hope I can visit New York one day. It'd be really great. My spider senses are tingling. Yeah, he does that. And she's like, yep, that's Peter, all right. Now, as I mentioned before in my commentary companions episode of Spider-Man 2002, when James Cameron was developing his version of the movie, he wanted Electro to be the main villain, and he would have been an evil billionaire named Carlton Strand who would have tried to bribe Spidey into joining him. And he gets killed in battle on the World Trade Center. And, Carlton Strand would have had Sandman for a sidekick, kind of his muscle. And Cameron wanted frequent collaborator Lance Henriksen to play Carlton Strand. Ironically, Lance Henriksen voiced Brainiac on Superman Brainiac Attacks, and he voiced the Grim Reaper on Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Whoa. Run! I mean, the dude's panicking, so he's not really at fault here. Yep. Oh, look at that. They see you. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the third highest grossing film in the Philippines of all time, with over Philippine $443 million in box office revenue, behind Iron Man 3 and The Avengers. Very smart. Yep, sparkles. I know it looks like Electro was played digitally, but he actually is played through makeup effects. Now, Electro's appearance was made with a combination of makeup effects and digital enhancements. The makeup was provided and designed by K&B Effects. It took between 4 to 4.5 hours to apply the makeup on Jamie Foxx to transform him into Electro. He described the process as like being dipped in blue candle wax. And I actually like that in this scene, Spider-Man's actually not trying to fight him, and he's actually trying to be diplomatic here, trying to help him. Power. Come on. According to Stan Lee, Peter Parker's favorite colors are red, blue, green, and yellow. Peter was also born in September and would prefer to sit in the back of the classroom in the comics. He also stated that no matter how much Peter is a math genius, he is very fond of ELA and is considered to be a very nice person by fellow classmates. And The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was originally called Spider-Man Die Rückkehr des Helden, Spider-Man: The Return of the Hero, for the German release. However, this caused a negative reaction from fans as they found the title misleading and not in line with the reboot. Sony Pictures Germany later changed the title to The Amazing Spider-Man 2: Rise of Electro. There goes his webbing. And yes, this was the final collaborative project between Alex Kurtzman and Roberto Orsi, claimed that their final collaboration before going their separate ways to pursue their own projects. Now, yeah, so apparently the beat to this song is similar to Green Eggs and Ham from Dr. Seuss. The bit which is heard in the movie is particularly reminiscent of the iconic Green Eggs passage, which reads, "That Sam I am, that Sam I am, I do not like that Sam I am." I don't like it. It's stupid. And most fans would agree with me. Okay, yeah, this digital slow motion scene actually is pretty cool. And I like the perspective of it. Now, before Jamie Foxx was cast, Jean Dujardin, Mads Mikkelsen, and Damian Lewis were considered for the part of Electro. Not even Jamie Foxx could deliver a line like that without sounding cringe. Now, this is the first Spider-Man movie to be filmed in Panavision, unlike the previous film, which was shot in 3D on the Red Epic. John Schwartzman, who was the cinematographer of the first film, was initially going to shoot in Panavision, anamorphic, on 35mm film, but switched to 3D on the Red Epic, due to a mandate by Sony, which was caused by the 3D trend at the time. Well, that's not good. Now, Finn Wittrock was rumored to play Eddie Brock in Amazing Spider-Man 3 before it was cancelled. Now, Jamie Foxx states that Spider-Man is a Leo, the star sign. He's technically correct, as not only is Andrew Garfield a Leo in real life, but Spider-Man's first appearance was released in August 10th, 1962. Also, yeah, I forgot to mention, The Amazing Spider Man 2 is the last Spider Man film that was adapted into a video game. The game adaptation was also the last standalone Spider Man game until Insomniac's Spider Man 2018. Oh, excuse me. Also, Jamie Foxx is a Sagittarius. Oof. Nice timing. And he sounds so disappointed. The beginning and end sequences were filmed on and around Main Street, West and East, in Rochester, New York. It should be noted that Andrew Garfield was not in Rochester. It is also likely that Paul Giamatti was not in Rochester either. Also, many Rochester buildings were featured throughout the film during Spider-Man's web swinging. I love Andrew's goofy face there. What else? Yes, to show how dated this film is, this plays Gone, Gone, Gone by American Idol winner Philip Phillips. What a stupid name. Once again, I swear, Andrew's acting is really carrying this film. Also, nice taste in Converse. Yeah, what is Roosevelt? Do you have any idea how little that narrows it down? Now, there are a lot of deleted scenes in this film. Among the film's deleted scenes, there is one where Harry Osborn shows Peter proof that Norman Osborn was keeping Peter under surveillance, in case Peter's missing father would ever try to contact his son. There is another deleted scene where, Peter meets his father, where Richard is visited by Peter. Well, Richard visits Peter while he's mourning Gwen. The alternate ending, and trust me, that would have killed the film. Now, the original plot outline by Roberto Orci and Alex Kurtzman has the following differences from the film. While the Mary Jane Watson sequences were shot but excluded from the final film, the script establishes Mary Jane as Peter's next-door neighbor who has an alcoholic and abusive father, and she sports a Spider-Man tattoo, works as a waitress, and builds motorcycles in her spare time. At one point, Peter confronts her father to lay off her. When Gwen is planning to head to London, she gives a piece of dating advice to Mary Jane, telling her to date a nerd. Max originally lives with his handicapped mother at home, which can be seen in a deleted scene on the Blu-ray bonus features. And once he returns home as Electro, he notices that his mother is standing and was paid a hefty compensation by Oscorp. He gets angry and begins using his powers, which is what sets off his confrontation with the police in Times Square. J. Jonah Jameson and Robbie Robertson from the Daily Bugle were to appear in the film, but director Mark Webb had difficulty finding an actor that could better J.K. Simmons' performance in the Spider-Man trilogy, directed by Sam Raimi. In the script, Peter is a student at Empire State University, bringing his first Spider-Man pictures to Jameson, who gives him a tour of the Daily Bugle. Jameson complains that the internet is killing the newspaper business. Later, Spidey and Electro's first fight send them crashing through the Daily Bugle offices and the printing presses. And, okay, yeah, so I thought that this doctor was an actual YouTuber, but nope, it was made for the movie. Yeah, I thought Dr. Jawlings was an actual YouTuber, but nope, he's just made for the movie to add basic exposition. Anyway, like I was saying, now originally Peter willingly gives his blood to help Harry. The goblin suit is explains to something that was secretly built by Richard Parker for the crippled Norman Osborn. When Richard didn't give his blood to Norman, the suit was hidden in Norman's boathouse, only to be eventually found by Harry. Rather than 7 months, as the time period of the film takes place, it instead plays out in 18 months. The second act of the film jumps 1 year later after the graduation scene. Dr. Ratha from The Amazing Spider-Man was meant to reappear in the movie. Although his final scene in that movie led to in mortal peril, the writers insist that he survived that predicament. But actor Irfan Khan was unavailable to reprise the role. So the character Donald Menken was introduced to engineer Harry's dismissal from Oscorp in Ratha's place. That's gotta hurt. Now, the characters of Rhino and Jorge originally do not appear in the film's story. They were added on the studio's insistence. And I'll probably explain later. I feel so bad for Campbell Scott and Chris Cooper here. Now, when asked whether or not Gwen Stacy would survive in this film, Mark Webb commented, "There are times where we feel obligated to follow the source material, and there are times where we feel the need to deviate from it, and besides, Emma Stone is a very talented actress, and we like having her around." Yeah, unless you find a way to formulate it. Apparently, Alexei, when defeated by Spider-Man the first time, his underpants features a rhinoceros graphic. Haha, how clever. Although Peter is a photographer, he is not shown taking one photo throughout the whole film. Kind of defeats the purpose, if you ask me. Also, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the first Spider-Man movie where Spider-Man fights a criminal before he becomes a costumed villain. Interesting attention to detail. Oh, convenient. It's like, you think no one will notice that. Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did. Now, oh no, Mufasa. Perhaps you shouldn't turn your back on me.
Roar! Is that a challenge?
Now, J.K. Simmons was keen to return as J. Jonah Jameson from the Sam Raimi trilogy, but the producers decided it was breaking franchise timelines. Well, of course, like that means anything, since Simmons would reprise his role as Jameson in Spider-Man Far From Home. Uh-oh. She's about to be busted. Is she technically fired? Nice save. Ooh, steamy. Looks like they might not notice. Oh yeah, big trouble. Big trouble in Little Oscorp. Now, Gwen first appeared in Ultimate Marvel in issue number 14 of Ultimate Spider-Man, which was written by Brian Michael Bendis and drawn by Mark Bagley. And whereas, in the comics, Gwen is the love of Peter's life, here, Gwen Stacy in Ultimate Spider-Man is merely just a next-door neighbor and a friend, and also a punk rocker. Woof. It's like you can feel their chemistry. Or maybe it was the actor saying that. I mean, good plan. What could possibly go wrong? Do 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 do. Oopsie doodle. I hope that coffee wasn't. Coffee was probably hot. Duh. Good distraction. Whoops. Seems like these that kind of make the film, that kind of save the film. Who were both introduced by Flash Thompson in the comics. Not kidding. Yeah, it's complicated. Yep, complicated. I'm gonna say it. Harry Osborn should have been left out of Amazing Spider-Man 2 altogether. It probably would have made the film a lot better, you know? It's interesting how in the 2004 sequel to Spider-Man 2, it was going to be called The Amazing Spider-Man, but I'll get into the convoluted details later. As I browse and observe this film. But yes, this is the first cinematic introduction of Ravencroft Institute, which I guess you could say is the Spider-Man equivalent to Arkham Asylum, if you stop and think about it. Ravencroft. Where did I write it down? Ugh. Oh yes, playing the waltzing song. Now, Ravencroft Institute was first mentioned in the comics in issue number 112 of Web of Spider-Man, and made its official appearance in Web of Spider-Man Annual number 10, written by Terry Kavanagh and illustrated by Jerry Bingham, published in 1994. You cannot convince me that Ravencroft is not a knockoff of Arkham Asylum. And of course, a lot of people in Ravencroft are villains like Carnage and such. But yeah, in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 video game, which is also it's notable for canonically bringing closure and revealing that Peter actually found his uncle's killer, and yeah, and that's apparently canon. And and the Doc's like, want to bet? But yeah, the villains that appear in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 are Carnage, Kingpin, Chameleon, Shocker, and uh, and Craven the Hunter. But yeah, also interestingly, in the Amazing Spider-Man video games, Spider-Man is voiced by Sam Riegel, and Sam Riegel voiced Donatello on the 2003 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon. Apparently, Andrew Garfield wanted to voice Spider-Man for those video games, but I'm not sure if it's an availability or if the producers of the video games thought it would be cheaper to pretty much hire a voice actor that sounds like Andrew Garfield to play him. You know, he looks so goofy with his broken glasses and such. But yeah, Electros also appears in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 video game. But yeah, I think Cletus Cassidy and Carnage appearing in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 video game is the only time you'll ever get to see the symbiotes ever appear in the Amazing Spider-Man franchise. But yeah, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 received largely mixed to negative reviews from critics. They praised the enhanced web swinging mechanics while heavily criticizing the buggy performance, repetitive combat, and lackluster story. Ouch. Once again, Sally Field's acting is she's really doing her best, and I know she doesn't care about the Amazing Spider-Man films. I get it, and but I have to but I think she's actually giving a decent performance. And she says it with such commitment. Now, several scenes involving Dane DeHaan were cut due to the disturbing and intense nature of the scenes, which I think sounds stupid as I read them. These include Harry drinking and speeding while the girl he is on a date with begs him to slow down, several scenes in which Felicia and Harry bond and romantic feelings between the two are implied, and of course an extended version of Harry's transformation, the Green Goblin showing himself to Felicia, who was in the building during the transformation, and sparing her life. I'll get to a certain spoiler later. Yep, and You know, it's better to hurt with the truth than to comfort with a lie. Probably not Men in Black. Yeah, that totally sounds reliable. Okay, yeah, even I admit this is pretty weak. The only thing that saves this film is, once again, Sally Field's acting, who's really giving it her all. Even if a lot of this dialogue is exposition-y and jumbly, which kind of indicates that Aunt May might know that Peter is Spider-Man. Also, yeah, this scene is kind of weak as well. And he doesn't even try, and Peter doesn't even try to alter his voice. I'll give the Tom Holland version of Spider-Man credit. At least he has the decency to try and do a gravelly voice, and at least does pretty funny stuff, like a
Flash, give me your car.
yeah, totally. And Peter Parker and I are totally not the same person. Oof, that neck does not look good. You're excused. Why, did you fart? And I think Peter's not wrong here. And he might not be wrong here. A boat. I mean, Peter is broke, and I'm sure he wouldn't say no to the money, but I'm sure Peter doesn't do what he does for money, you know? Well, not everyone can be saved. Why are you jumping to that conclusion? Careful where you throw that stuff. You can actually see the guilt-ridden body language. I don't know where he jumped to that conclusion. I mean, I swear, these villains jump to conclusions when they shouldn't even jump to conclusions if they had more time to think. That would actually be a bit more helpful, you know? Oh! It's gonna take a second. If I had a nickel for every time I heard that. Yeah, you could tell that. And once again, Andrew's really carrying this on his back. Oop, perfect timing. Yeah, sure. Yep. Now, Alden Ehrenreich, Brady Corbet, Eddie Redmayne, Claflin, Douglas Booth, and Boyd Holbrook were considered to play Harry Osborn. John Hopkins, oh man. when. Oh no. Yeah, I think the rambling that Peter just did was completely improvised by Andrew Garfield. Yeah, so when Peter interrupts Gwen on her way to her final interview for Oxford, upon realizing where they are, Peter's rambling to the receptionist was improvised several times by Andrew Garfield, and the producers and director chose their favorite version from among all the takes that were recorded. It's like, I like this idea that Peter will always support her and be by her side, even if he can't physically be there, which I think is so sweet. Which only makes her death even more sad. You know, given the context of both films, this version of Peter Parker has every reason to crash out, you know? And a lesser actor probably wouldn't have been able to portray the crash out and do it justice without becoming an unintentional meme. But, Andrew Garfield really takes the crash out seriously and really does carry it on his back. Oh, look at that. He hid all the coins in the calculator. My God, that is so stupid. This is why How It Should Have Ended pretty much mocked that scene. Yes, I am a fan of How It Should Have Ended. I admit it. It's like, well, I'll be a monkey's uncle. And do these coins even frickin' work? It's like now his curiosity is piqued. Or piqued. Which is sort of interesting. You know? Oof. Yeah. Another way. Now, Richard Parker's secret lab, Roosevelt, is based on Track 61 built under the Waldorf Astoria. The track was solely used by the White House to hide the fact that polio-suffering President Franklin D. Roosevelt needed the use of a wheelchair, as acknowledged in the film. This same tunnel was also the basis of the novel/movie The Taking of Pelham 123. Special projects. And it's so smart that they give him such access to it. Oh, surprise! He made a discovery. Spider-Man lives in Electro's head rent-free. Well, that was rude. Yeah, that framing totally won't come back to bite him in the ass. The one time he actually does care.
Out, am I? You know how much I've sacrificed? You know how much I've sacrificed?
Ouch. But actually, that's a great way to describe how people will feel when Donald Trump dies. No one's gonna miss him. I won't, at least. Yeah, and I won't let the door hit me on the way out. Oh, hey, look, Peter. You got a train to catch. Like I said, I think they should have left out the subplot of Peter's father and the closure and such. I go back and forth. I mean, I guess the idea of there being a secret tunnel could have had potential. It could have. I'm wondering if that was a genuine mistake. It worked. Doesn't work. Humph. Oh, surprise. I mean, that is sort of a cool secret passageway. Mr. Parker, your train has arrived. And the fact that it still works after 10, 12 years? It's never explicitly stated. Yeah. You got a train to catch. Yes, I will never not reference You've Got a Train to Catch. I'm willing to make that a running gag throughout this show. And look at all this research. It totally doesn't look expired. It looks so fresh. Download complete. How convenient. It's almost like it's been waiting. The Buffer of Doom. Hi, Richard. Never believe the horrible things people say about me. None of them are true. Translation, he framed me. Now, as I mentioned in my commentary companions episode of Spider-Man 2, the 2004 sequel would have been called The Amazing Spider-Man and would have had a subplot that revealed Peter's parents were on the run to avoid the wrath of Oscorp for taking their research, including a genetically enhanced spider containing Parker DNA. And it looks like this idea was used for Amazing Spider-Man 2. Whether it was mandated by the studio, I'm not sure. You know what? I think I will look up. I will look that up. I can. Yep, Parker DNA, and Peter's DNA is compatible with that. Was the Parker Parker, Spider, DNA, subplot in Amazing Spider-Man. What convincing disguise. Mandated by the studio. Now, while not explicitly documented in a single public statement as a mandated scene, the Parker DNA parent subplot in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was a key component of the studio-driven desire to build a shared universe and explore an untold story, leading to heavy, disruptive, and often criticized studio-mandated interference in the final film. Sony executives were pushing for a massive 12-film franchise, which led to the film being crammed with multiple villains and subplots intended to set up spin-offs, including the Parker DNA storyline. The storyline was designed to explain the untold story of Peter's parents, a thread that was directly pushed as a major element in the first Amazing Spider-Man and was expanded upon in the sequel. The plot reveal was largely seen as an unnecessary, confusing addition that undermined the idea that Spider-Man could be anyone. Andrew Garfield stated in interviews that certain people at the studio had problems with certain parts of the movie and that significant portions of the script were removed or altered, causing the thread of the story to be broken. For all I know, the subplot was in effect a product of studio-driven, disjointed storytelling that prioritized long-term cross-movie universe planning over the cohesion of the individual movie. Yeah, I think even Dane DeHaan might have been saying that out of character, like, "Oh come on," like maybe, "Oh come on," over the subplot. Maybe there's a high likelihood the Parker DNA subplot was probably mandated by the studio. Yep. How much did James Vanderbilt contribute to The Amazing Spider-Man? ISO, like isolation. Yeah, so James Vanderbilt was a significant contributor to The Amazing Spider-Man 2, primarily serving as the creator of the initial story and draft before it was heavily rewritten. I think they probably put his name in the credits out of pity. His initial draft was reported to have a darker tone similar to the first film and featured Electro as the sole central villain with a different, smaller role for Harry Osborn compared to the final version. His story treatment formed the base of the sequel, and he was highly trusted by Sony following his work on the first film and his previous work on the unproduced Spider-Man 4. Thankfully, Radio Silence pretty much appreciates his work. Oh, there's the jolt. I need you. Now that's what I call a disappearing act. Oof, that's kind of gruesome. Yeah, I think James Vanderbilt got the short end of the stick when it came to the work on Amazing Spider-Man 2. Yeah, it's a good thing his boxers also materialized. Ah, you're still alive. Well, not anymore. You know, I also think it's kind of amusing how some screenwriters who have worked on Marvel films have also been involved with the Jumanji franchise. Like, co-writer Steve Pinkner has worked on the Jumanji sequels, and Jonathan Hensleigh also worked on... pretty much before working on The Punisher and wanting to work on Hulk, he worked on the script to the first Jumanji film. And he also, and of course, the first Jumanji film was directed by Joe Johnston, who would later direct Captain America, the First Avenger. I wonder... No, no. Maybe it would. I'd probably be wasting my time. Nine U16. I wonder if Gwen hadn't been involved with helping Peter stop Electro. Aside from a delayed flight, would she have lived? I think so. I think probably Green Goblin probably wouldn't have captured her. At least that's my observation. That's happening. Yep. Surprise, bitch. And somehow he has enough time to form a black leather suit. I think I'd rather see him wear the green suit. Yeah, spectacular. I beg to differ. Yeah, this scene is definitely one of the weakest aspects. Yeah, you talk too much. But it looks like Dane was kind of having fun with that. Okay, so when Electro is gives Mencken the cardiac arrest, Dane DeHaan impulsively started to whistle the Jeopardy theme, which is owned by Sony, kinda. Producer Matt Tolmach decided this was in character for the maddened Harry and was too good to remove or record over. Therefore, Tolmach decided to pay the copyright fee for its use. And I must admit, when I get impatient, I hum the Jeopardy think song to pass the time when waiting for something when it's taking forever. Because I love Jeopardy, and I love that theme song. And I think everyone loves that Jeopardy theme song. So I think it's actually one of the few moments where Dane DeHaan does get a chance to really shine as Harry Osborn. And you'll notice I haven't really been comparing Dane DeHaan to James Franco because, like I said, on Commentary Companions, it's not fair to really compare the predecessor. And, of course, I'm one to talk since, I just compared Chris Cooper's performance as Norman Osborn unfavorably to Willem Dafoe. Ha! That's adorable. Bitch, you thought. The future, that's freaking adorable. How'd that work out? Arrhenius or a... I'm not even going to waste my time with that. Go on, chicken. I wonder what would have happened if Harry had been given the lizard DNA. Well, he probably would have gotten lizard 2.0. Or imagine mixing the spider DNA with the lizard DNA. Then we'd have much more of a goblin design, you know? Nothing's happening, I think. This is the part where things aren't going so well. For Harry, that is. Apparently, this transformation was supposed to be much more extended and longer, and would have been much more brutal. Like Harry's hands would have turned into claws, and his teeth would have grown and turned into fangs. And originally, Harry was supposed to kill Donald, but of course, test screenings were negative. Honestly, this transformation scene is so underwhelming. Yeah, I said it, and it really does show when the film is about to go downhill. I said it, yeah. And I've looked at early designs of Harry Osborn's Green Goblin design, which were actually done by Weta Workshop. Weta's early designs for Harry Osborn as the Green Goblin are much more mutated and sickly and actually greener. And I actually think that those designs are much better. I think they should have made his face green, give him pointier eyes, and they should have shown his hair falling out. That way he would look like a sickly green goblin, you know? And actually, Green Goblin was portrayed with a combination of practical makeup effects, prosthetics, and CG enhancements. The makeup process for the final version took 3.5 hours to apply. The suit was, for the Green Goblin, was heavy and restrictive for Dane DeHaan. Some parts of the suit required specialized tools to remove them. Also, this entire sequence of Spider-Man's webbing saying "I love you" was portrayed digitally. Actually, it is pretty decent digital effects. And it does sound like something Spider-Man would totally do, whether it be for Gwen Stacy or Mary Jane. Whoopee! That's some ADR. Yeah, totally not subtle. I think she just said that she couldn't read it just to hear Peter say he loves her, which I'm totally cool with. You're my path. Always gonna be my path. That's unironically sweet. Yep. Aww. Yeah. Or he could have let her go and she'd still be alive. I think Jack the Ripper is dead at this point. Uh-oh. I swear, those villains can be such cock blockers. How'd she guess? Yeah, that's clunky exposition. Also, yes, this whole airplane scene is so pointless. Even I admit it. I feel like there's not enough build-up or suspense, and I feel like you could cut the airplane sequence out and not miss anything. Unfortunately, on Commentary Companions, I do not skip scenes to make sure it's authentic. Yeah, very smart. Very, very smart. Oh boy, this scene is so pointless. And unfortunately, I have to sit through it. Oh no, the train's stopping. So much chaos, pandemonium. Yep, do not panic. This is no time to panic. Pseudo Grande. Nice. Okay, that scene was actually pretty funny in the in the trailers. Well, now when Gwen yells Peter after him and covers her mouth with her hand, this was a genuine mistake by Emma Stone, who was supposed to say Spider-Man instead of Peter. And covering her mouth at a mistake was the genuine reaction of the actress, not the character. The director called it a happy accident and left it in because it was so well performed that it did not break character. I like it, actually. Yeah, at your destination. Okay, I'll admit this scene between Electro and Spider-Man is nice to look at. I know it's not real, but it's very well made, and I have to give a lot of props to the people that went out of their way, the special effects team that did this. It is well made. Stand by only. What could possibly go wrong? Oh yeah, this looks like a perfect place to kill your girlfriend. Trust me, Eduardo knows from Facebook knows how you feel. We'll be like a god to them. A god named Sparkles. That definitely feels like Spider-Man dialogue. Like I said, some of the dialogue works. Some of it doesn't. She looks so annoyed and peeved. It's like she almost wants to hit him, but she also wants to hug him at the same time. Yoink. Yeah, duke it out. Take that as a no. Also, Spider-Man's suit being rubber to withstand Electro's powers is very much like Electro's debut. Nice. Yeah, fight sequences like these are totally cool. Which which way did he go, George? Which way did he go? Yep, if I had a nickel for every time a Spider-Man villain sang Itsy Bitsy Spider, I'd have 2 nickels. Yeah, because I'm thinking of Green Goblin in the first Spider-Man film. The Itsy Bitsy Spider went up the water spout. Down came the Goblin and drowned the spider out. Sorry, I had to. I cannot resist making jokes like these. Yeah, I bet you never saw that coming either, Electro. Which way did he go, George? Which way did he go? Can't be here right now. And it totally won't be the death of you. It explodes. Yep. It's like, no matter what! Yeah, she's wearing clothes similar to Amazing Spider-Man number 121. Ugh, George, your timing is terrible. I bet this was pretty entertaining to watch in a 4DX theater. I wonder, 4DX. Were 4DX theaters available in 2014? These people are oblivious. Yeah, 4DX theaters were available in 2014. It probably would have been pretty cool seeing the Amazing Spider-Man 2 in 4DX. Oof, Spider-Man is not having a good day. Boom! That's gotta hurt. Yep. Bye, Electro. We'll see you in Spider-Man No Way Home. Boomy! Yep. Turn around. Look at that. Happy landing. Like I said, that I felt nothing for this airplane subplot. Could have been cut out and you wouldn't miss a damn thing. Woohoo! Yay! And I think this is where the film should have ended. But, nope. This is not where the film ends. But it should have. Oof. I don't think he's seeing stars. Oh, great. And the moment that glider comes in, this is when the film goes downhill. And that laugh isn't even maniacal enough. Now, interestingly, in Ultimate Spider-Man, Harry Osborn actually does become Hobgoblin. Specifically in issue number 76 of Ultimate Spider-Man, written by Brian Michael Bendis and drawn by Mark Bagley. And he's able to put two and two together and realize, oh yeah, Peter is Spider-Man. Now, the Green Goblin Spider-Man makeup was pretty much provided by Sarah Rubano. And Sarah Rubano has collaborated with K&B Effects on The Chronicles of Narnia, the first three films. And she's done makeup for 30 Days of Night, 10,000 BC, District 9, the first three Avatar films. And she's also done prosthetic makeup for Spartacus, Gods of the Arena, The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey, as well as The Hobbit, Battle of the Five Armies. And she's done makeup for Chappie, Ghost in a Shell, and X, Pearl, and Maxine. Which is kind of cool. Really cool. Very poor choice of words. There is only the Green Goblin. Very poor choice of words. Now, the final battle between the Green Goblin and Spider-Man was filmed in an actual clock tower where temperatures would reach 115 degrees. Dane DeHaan had to wear prosthetics and makeup, requiring 3.5 hours of application as well as his goblin costume. And the costume weighed 50 pounds and couldn't be opened without power tools. DeHaan actually lost 7 pounds in a single day. And after that happened, the film's medic was so concerned that Dane DeHaan would get the heat stroke, and crew members were told to pour buckets of ice on DeHaan's head and down his suit between takes. Unfortunately, this didn't work because his body temperature was so high that the ice would melt and turn into steam before he could feel the cooling effects. Eventually, a tubing system that would pump cold water was installed in the goblin suit so that the cooler temperature would reach DeHaan's body. I actually feel bad for Dane DeHaan knowing what he endured in the Green Goblin suit. But apparently he did not hate the makeup, and he didn't hate wearing the suit, despite it being so grueling for him. Yeah, knowing that, I mean, I hope Dane DeHaan gets a chance to play more comic book villains and do them justice. Yeah, but this is what I learned when I was doing doing research. And this is why I love looking up facts. And apparently this fight was supposed to be way more brutal, and originally Harry would have snapped Gwen's neck with his bare hands, but that was considered too brutal, and actually, interestingly, Gwen's dying words, she would tell Peter to never give up, echoing both an earlier talk she had with Mary Jane and George Stacy's dying words to Peter in the preceding film. And I may as well address the elephant in the room. And I'm going to say it also, seeing his hand desperately reach to Gwen, that is a good shot on the visual effects by the visual effects crew members. Yep, if he had done it a few feet higher, she probably wouldn't have died. Anyway, of course, in the comics, Gwen Stacy was killed by Norman Osborn in The Amazing Spider-Man number 121, which was written by the late but great Jerry Conway and drawn by Gil Kane. And of course, the filmmakers debated on whether to really let Gwen live in the final film, and I think the film would have been better. I mean, but finding out she died was such a major turnoff for me when I stumbled across that fact on the internet when I was a junior in high school. But anyway, Gwen Stacy's death in the comics was actually a last-minute decision on Conway and John Romita Sr. Originally, the editors wanted Conway and Romita to kill off Aunt May. But of course, Conway and Romita refused. Conway and Romita debated on whether to kill off Gwen or Mary Jane Watson. In the end, Jerry Conway and John Romita Sr. ended up choosing Gwen Stacy, seeing the relationship with Peter as mainly a dead end. No pun intended. And of course, eventually, it was also supposed to cut back to then Peter would get angry and then he would punch Harry nonstop, but it was considered too brutal. And actually, Gwen wasn't supposed to die, also. There was one of the other earlier drafts. Let me get to it. Come on, Google Docs, where are you? Okay, yep, there we are. I'm getting close. An alternate unused draft of the screenplay had Gwen surviving Spider-Man's climactic showdown with the Goblin, but she is critically injured, however. In order to save her life, Peter performs an emergency transfusion using his own blood. As a side effect, this act endows her with powers similar to Peter's powers. And there would be a final scene who would go by she would wear the Spider-Gwen costume and would call herself the White Widow, and she would join Spider-Man's fight against the Rhino. This duly impresses her 3 younger brothers, who happen to be looking on, although they're oblivious to her secret identity. I think I would have liked that alternate ending over what we got, which is such a disappointment. Yeah. I think Gwen was totally fridged here. And Gwen was fridged. You can't change my mind. And I think any fan would agree with that. And yeah, it is very sad. And I didn't want Gwen to die, even if it is faithful to the comics. I mean, even a friend, someone just literally said this as I'm on Discord. Life is a sadistic fuck. And boy, is he right. And here's another teaser that should have been cut out. Now, once again, Michael Massey returns as the Gentleman, previously seen in the mid-credits scene to The Amazing Spider-Man. And of course, it's interesting, the late Michael Massey voiced Bruce Banner in the Ultimate Avengers movies, and he played Fun Boy in The Crow. And everyone knows that Michael Massey accidentally and unintentionally killed Brandon Lee with a point-blank gun, and, I don't really blame Michael Massey for the death of Brandon Lee. I heard it was also a mixture of an allergic reaction to a medical pill that killed Brandon Lee. I also blame the director of The Crow, Alex Proyas, for this, since it was actually his idea for this last-minute decision. So Brandon Lee's death was completely avoidable. Okay, so although it feels like Gustav Fiers was made for the movie, the Gentleman did first appear in a comic book, debuting in Spider-Man: The Gathering of the Sinister Six, published in 1999, created by Adam Troy Castro. Oh, God. Great. Everyone's least favorite version of Rhino is back. He's been Spider-Man No More for 5 months, or probably he stopped pulling his punches. Like I said, I'm quoting the film verbatim here. Yeah, because he's the only vigilante that exists in this universe, because no other Marvel heroes can legally be in here. Yep, he's metaphorically lost. Yep. Now, during the period of time during when things were getting rather strained with Andrew Garfield and Sony, Sony wanted to fire Andrew Garfield due to his speaking out at the production studio and his refusal to meet them for company events. After a lengthy silence, Sony and Marvel revealed on February 9th, 2015, they would work together to produce a new Spider-Man series, canceling the Amazing Spider-Man franchise and giving Andrew Garfield the boot. Sony basically did to Andrew Garfield what Warner Brothers did to Henry Cavill. Of course, you know what they say, nothing personal, just business. Look at that, a Sony computer. Totally not distracting. I know this is the part where I would start crying, and I'm sure there's someone in the audience who watched this in theaters who started crying, but I just feel so cold and indifferent. But I know it's not the fault of... It is definitely the fault of the writers, but I know it's not the fault of the actors, who are doing their best. Yep, which feels ironically fitting. Oh boy, I was this close to having a coughing fit. Yep, called it. Oh no, it's the Rhino. Yeah, that mecha suit is so stupid. I would have I would have favored that awesome organic look. I mean, why can't Sony get the Rhino right? Jeez Louise, is he really that hard to portray? Now, although that mechanical Rhino suit looks stupid, it actually is based on his appearance in Ultimate Spider-Man comics. Specifically, Ultimate Spider-Man number 28, which was written by Brian Michael Bendis and drawn by Mark Bagley. You know... Ugh. Yeah, you know, that open space would have been a perfect target for the police to frickin' shoot him and kill him. Just saying. And this is why parents put leashes on their children, I'd wager. Yeah, don't shoot the kid. Of course, any other cop in a Trump-supporting state would have shot the kid by mistake. And they would find a way to justify it. I shall call him Mini-Me. Huh. Yeah, brave but stupid. What did this kid think he would... Did this kid really think he would accomplish something by standing against Rhino? He'd be dead in 10 seconds. Well, 10 seconds would actually be generous. Yep, or Mini Spider-Man, or Spider-Boy, Spider-Kid. Of course, I'm not going to mock the kid. I mean, I'm sure that kid was happy to be in a Spider-Man film because he looks like a genuine Spider-Man fan. And you know what? Kid George, you have full bragging rights because you got to be in a Spider-Man film. And that's great. That kid's probably grounded. How nice of them to give him a bullhorn. Real rhinos everywhere. Never. I'm acting! It's funny because Paul Giamatti collaborated with Thomas Hayden Church, who played Sandman in Sideways. I might as well watch Sideways later. Oh boy. Yep, nice. And of course, I think this is when Spider-Man officially stops holding his punches against Rhino, as confirmed in Spider-Man No Way Home. And look at that. Let me get to it. Title card. Well, I guess. And that was The Amazing Spider-Man 2. What a mess. I mean, it's written by the guys who did Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, and it's clearly got the interference of Avi Arad and Matt Tolmach. And hold on, did he work on X-Men Origins Wolverine? Matt Tolmach did Matt Tolmach work on X-Men Origins Wolverine? Oh, nope, whoops, I screwed up. Yeah, but yeah, you can feel the interference from Avi Arad and Matt Tolmach, who are clearly trying to make their own cinematic universe and to compete against the Marvel Cinematic Universe because they were so disgruntled that the Avengers was doing better than them, and it really does show. And yeah, it shouldn't have been a cinematic universe. They should have focused on telling a contained, grounded story. I probably would have liked James Vanderbilt's story a lot better, but I mean, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a mixed bag. I mean, there's so much that doesn't work, but there's so much that does work. And, Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone's acting is clearly carrying the film. I mean, it's not the best Spider-Man film. I would probably, I'd say it's even worse than Spider-Man 3, and that is not that's saying something. But, personally, I mean, I don't like it, but I don't despise it like I despise Madam Web and Morbius. And I think people are starting to appreciate it thanks to Andrew's acting, and I am so glad that he finally returned for Spider-Man No Way Home. He was definitely a great aspect. But anyway, that was my commentary companions on The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Although there's no mid-credits scene to X-Men Days of Future Past, I will eventually do a commentary on that. But of course, I will also do a commentary on Shrek to celebrate the film's 25th anniversary. But anyway, thanks for listening to my commentary on The Amazing Spider-Man 2. This was kind of fun to talk about, and I really had fun making fun of this while also enjoying it. But anyway, be sure to like and subscribe. Don't have a good day. Have a great day.